Not, at least we're public.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Well, kia ora, everybody. We'll open our extraordinary council meeting, Wednesday, the 9th of July. We'll open with our Parakia Tīmatanga.
Mai te awa toka, raka ki te awa raki, tēnā e te rākore, a whiawhi e tarataki, raka e whanio, a rena e te toki, home e prie, tāpia.
Okay. Apologies. I have apology from His Worship, Mark.
Check the news from Ukraine. There appeared to be no New Zealanders listed on the fatalities.
No, he messaged me about half an hour ago. He was going to try and tune in or join us, but he's decided not to. He said he's bugging his way. Welcome, Steve Gallen, online. And welcome, Simon. Nice to see you. 3, conflicts of interest. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm happy to move that apology. Thank you. Councillor Newman, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Cherokee.
You're welcome.
Conflicts of interest declaration. None. Public forum. I haven't been notified of anyone. Discussion of public forum. We can pass that. Youth Council views on agenda items. Reports. 7.1.
Deputy Mayor, just like to walk you through the report briefly and then highlight things that may have changed since writing the report. So what we have in front of us is a summary of the conversations that have been going on between the 4 councils, and attached to that is a list of key terms where the CEOs feel there is alignment between the 4 councils. There's certainly not agreement because the CEOs don't have delegated authority to do that, but there is alignment and a lot of thinking with regards to the structure and the key terms of a water services council-owned organisation that would span the Wairarapa and the Tararua. I've highlighted some of those key points in the paper, and they cover off things like the governance structure, shareholding, voting, key issues around harmonisation, non-harmonisation, and also the aspects of the risks and how we're going to proceed forward. What I would say is since writing the report, there's been a number of conversations with regards, particularly the governance structure and how that governance structure is set up. There have been questions around whether or not all of the organisations should have appointment rights to the Water Services Entity Board, how those board members are appointed, the skills that they're appointed under. And at this stage, it would seem that there is a feeling that nobody should have appointment rights to the Water Services Entity Board, that the skills matrix needs to be developed, but all members are to be skills-based as part of the legislation, and that the shareholder council, which would be made up of representatives from the 4 councils and from Te Iwi, would be the ones to make the final decision on the appointment of directors. I'm more than happy to take questions on where we're at with this. It's been a long process, but I feel that we are fairly close in alignment with where we've landed.
Quick question on that. Is there likely to be guidance from DIA on the skills matrix? Or is it something that each of the entities or the council's shareholders need to come up with?
I haven't seen any advice from the DIA on what's required in the skills matrix yet. They are mostly interested in things that are more pressing. So the delivery of a water service delivery plan, which is required by the 3rd of September this year. The board appointments will occur later in the piece. So the advice that's coming out now is all about things that councils are making decisions upon now.
Kia ora, Joel. Welcome to the meeting. I'm not.
Jeff, is there now general agreement among the councils that no one should have appointment rights to the board?
So the CEs met yesterday, and we also met with representatives from management representatives from Kahungunu and Rangatani, and we discussed the view that the shareholder council is the best place to exert influence on water services entity boards. And that's where council will be exerting influence on the water services entity board. And we thought that's where our stakeholders, iwi partners, should also be exerting their influence. And there seems to be general alignment with that thinking. I have been advised that the chair of Rangatani was also of that mind, but that's again third-hand information.
I think that's good.
Yeah. The model's designed for council to, as I said, exert influence on the water services entity board via the shareholder, or what I prefer to call the stakeholder council.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we should be looking to concentrate all of the stakeholders in one place to control what the water services entity board does, but also link it back to our planning documents and our district plan, because we need to ensure the water services entity will encourage growth and invest in growth areas where we've got those growth areas set in the plan.
And I think it sets it out really well in the skills requirements that we've been provided with commitment to strong stakeholder management with the 4 shareholding councils, and commitment to partnership and upholding the Treaty of Waitangi, Tikanga and Te Ao Māori. So I think we're covering the bases are covered in that. Questions? Councillor Newman.
Page 10, talking about non-harmonisation and that the Commerce Commission could potentially come in and override that core principle. Can you talk a bit more about that and what that risk is there?
Great question. I'd probably also like to highlight that whilst it sounds like we're in alignment and that was quite easy, there has been a fair amount of bruising and bloodied black eyes with these conversations, and harmonisation has certainly been one of the key areas where there has been a lot of robust conversation. So the non-harmonisation period, so you would have noted that we're talking about 9 years, not 10 now. That is because the water services entity will require to refresh their plan, water services delivery plan, on the same cycle that we do with long-term plans, so every 3 years. So we're looking at a 3-yearly multiple for the non-harmonisation period. So it was either 9 years or 12 was what we were discussing, and the preference seemed to be 9. Now, when we look at non-harmonisation, we can enshrine principles like this in the constitution of the water services entity. But that doesn't mean that a principle that is that doesn't work from a regulatory perspective, i.e. that distorts pricing or distorts behaviours of the water services entity, can't be overruled by the regulator. And that's the powers that have been included in the legislation for the regulator to step in and overrule constitutions or decisions that have been made by councils that may distort behaviours. I don't see that would be likely in this case, because the price ring fencing and the debt ring fencing will only be for a period of time, and then it will step off. So I can't see that it would likely distort behaviours. I can't predict the future. But it would be an extreme case where a regulator stepped in and overrode constitution of a water services entity.
We seem to be talking about a start date of 2027 now, not 2026. So it will be 9 years from 2027,
Yes,
which would be kind of 11 years from now,
yes.
which is, might be handy.
And the timeline to get the entity up and running is a little bit flexible at this stage. It's likely we will prioritise some councils that have a more pressing need than others. So, for example, it's more likely South Wairarapa would need to transition early as opposed to the likes of Carterton, who have our own water services team, and we can carry on for a longer period than South Wairarapa. So it may be that we have the entity legally formed by the 1st of July 2026, and that some activities will transition in that 26-27 year period, most likely to be one of the councils that requires it more urgently than others. That will depend on how fast Wellington transition.
Hi, Jeff. I have a question with regards to a change that I'm looking back at a document. I'm pretty confident I can circulate it. Was a document when we were consulting with the public around the governance structure. And initially we talked about it being a shareholder council, and there was a nice little diagram. It had shareholder council, and it came down to the next level, which was into the directors. And then there was a mana whenua box beside the shareholder council. When did that become one box and be a stakeholder
council? Relatively early on. I don't think there was ever an intent that mana whenua were separate from the shareholders. I thought there was always an intent that they were part of it, but it has been right from our early negotiations has been one stakeholder council, shareholder council, as opposed to two parties. And I think that's designed so that when the statement of expectations is prepared, that it goes through one process of review, and that is by all stakeholders, rather than go through a review with council and then goes out to stakeholders or potentially the public before. So, yeah, I think it could just be it could be the diagram that we used early on wasn't quite accurate, but it's always been my feeling that the shareholder/stakeholder council is all parties.
Yeah. I just think there's just a fair difference between the two models. And if that was what was consulted on with the public, I think that is a different level of expectation. I think having on a diagram, it doesn't quite much having a box around one and separate box. But in terms of governance and accountability to the community, it changes dramatically. If there are 4 people in the shareholder council, they're all elected by the community. Whereas if mana whenua are included in that box, there are 2 seats in the shareholder council that aren't electable. Sorry, this was page.
I found the document.
You found the document 19, governance/S/H council and WSO board. So there was a pretty document that was, it shows a layout.
Consultation document, actual consultation document.
Oh, that one's only got 16 pages.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's not on the consultation
So
document.
this was local water done by Waikato. There was an email that I think I can go back and look at when it was sent to us.
Just having a look at the consultation document. So if that's a concern, then I think we might be all right because, sorry to interrupt. Are you scanning it as well?
Yeah. But yeah, so that was the initial thing that we were just, it was, regardless, that was what we were shown in a workshop. Keep going. And I just wondered what fellow councillors' thoughts are around having a stakeholder/shareholder council that isn't democratically elected but appointed.
It says on page 8 of the actual consultation document, which is what we went out to the public with. It says governance, independent board of directors, joint council, shareholders and iwi committee.
An EWE
So it's-
committee is different than saying that they're the shareholders.
different, so it's,
Bottom of page 9, it says shareholder committee, including councils and EWE.
Yeah.
The governance.
I would still argue that's different than saying that they're shareholders, which they're not, because they don't own the assets.
so it's that I call it a stakeholder council, not a
Yeah.
shareholder. That's the cross, the mixing up of words. So it's a stakeholder council.
This document says shareholder throughout it with a slash beside it. I'm just wondering if there had been a decision at some point where council opted to have a co-governant element in the shareholder council. I acknowledge the fact that things have changed since, and the board is going to be only skills-based, which is great. I just think when the people who are deciding who are the skills-based people aren't elected, that still skews things. And I just think for the ease of the simplicity of the organisation, having things that are all entirely democratically elected makes sense, and it would be democratic way of running things. And the government have indicated that's their preference.
Could I note the instructions that I were provided?
Yeah.
From the previous council resolution when we considered proceeding with a Wairarapa Taurua Water Services entity. The resolution noted that there were some aspects that were bottom lines for council, and one of those bottom lines was an expectation that Ngāti Kahununuki, Wairarapa and Rangatani or Wairarapa were represented at the shareholder council, and that was a resolution of this council and an instruction given to me as part of the negotiation.
Yep.
Was that when I was absent? Because I've gone back and looked at minutes and I can't see that anywhere. So it was potentially, there was no minutes in this agenda of the last meeting, so I don't have a way of seeing that had happened.
It was definitely agreed upon around the table, and I can't remember a few.
The main meeting of it.
So you
Or was it the 25th? There's been a couple. That's right. I don't have any, I don't have any evidence of what happened at that last meeting was all.
If you want to know what we think,
Yeah.
well, I'll tell you what I think. I think it's only fair that we have that representation, and not having it, I think, would create problems for generations to come. So it's not only seems to me to be fair, I think it's pragmatic.
Can I ask another question?
Nathan?
Okay. I'm just interested in why you think it's fair when mana whenua have representation through the fact that they're all people who belong in our communities that fit under our council umbrella. So I'm just unsure why there needs to be a separate category.
Because of the history of the country, really.
Yeah. So I just worry that it's we're doing it to be seen doing the right thing, not because of the reason that it's actually going to make this organisation run the best way it can.
Aren't we bound to uphold the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi?
The government.
It's over water, absolutely.
The government has changed from the Three Waters Services entity. When the initial Three Waters was run, the Labor government were running with a policy that there was co-governance at the governance level, and that the board would be skills-based. When National came in, they got rid of that requirement, and they decided, or National and ACT Coalition, New Zealand First, when they came in, they changed that requirement that it wasn't required. Everyone knows it's a disputed topic if you need to have iwi components in these sorts of board makeups, and the government's position is that we don't. So I don't think we can sit here and say that that's us acknowledging the treaty. The government acknowledged the treaty. This is a step further, and I'm just wondering if the council are happy. If the majority are, then that's fine. I'm just bringing it up.
Personally, I'm extremely happy if you're wanting our opinions around the table of having iwi representation. I think for me it's a non-negotiable to have them on the stakeholder. We have 2 iwi in the Wairarapa, multiple hapu. And I think personally, I wouldn't be comfortable if iwi weren't represented on the stakeholder council.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Steve, I'm more than happy with including iwi, especially on the shareholders / stakeholders board or group, whatever you like to call it. It is important. It is important that we include them, and it'll be a hell of a lot easier going forward if we do include them right at the start, as we've always said. That it's the only way to go. The board, yes, they all should be elected schools based, and iwi can put up representatives to that as well. And iwi have got as much right to appoint nominations to the board as anybody else. So yeah, I'm more than happy to go along with the board shareholder stakeholder committee, including iwi. One question I do have for Jeff probably is with the shareholder board or whatever you like to call it, shareholder stakeholder group, the CE's involvement or elected ELT, executive leadership team, they will have to be included as advisors, but non-voting. Is that your take on that? Because we need somebody in the background like we do here to advise at different times.
I'm happy to answer the question if you, unless you want to carry on with Councillor Aylings.
I'm fine with you answering this question. It's relevant. So
I would absolutely expect that the shareholder stakeholder council would need advice, particularly on some of the aspects of the skills matrix that they are using. That may need to be external advice, so there may need to be external governance recruitment involved in there. On the statement of expectations, I expect that's where officers would be advising the council.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer Grace's question, my thoughts on it. I 100% believe that they should be around the table in that stakeholder thing. It's like their natural resource, their taonga, they need to be involved in it. And I think integrating them and working with them from the start makes sense and is the easiest way forward. So I'm super comfortable with having them around.
thanks, Councillor Newman. Councillor Gallon.
You're on mute.
Got his hand up as well.
I think he just said at the beginning when.
We're working now.
Yep.
We are.
On page 6, I've written lots of stuff here, but I've written here that I've purchased share. We're talking about shareholding here, and I've purchased shares in the past, and because become a shareholder, you're required to outlay some coin, to go along to a shareholder meeting and all that. You actually have to have bought or have some money, some skin in the game, just to be gifted a shareholding. It's just one of my questions. So I've got a lot of questions. So yeah, just being a shareholder, you don't just get given a shareholding. You have to have some coin in it, That's how I understand it.
Steve, if you'd like to answer Councillor Aylings, so that's your reply to Councillor Aylings' question. And then we can move on to other questions if you've got other questions.
I guess that's along the same line of what Grace was saying, that I'd already written down that shareholders should have a stake in it, but they have to buy a stake in it, That's why I've still got questions about the whole entity, who has shares and what.
Thank you. Just from me, I absolutely agree with the board being totally independent, and the shareholder stakeholders will get to appoint those people. And as Councillor Della has alluded to, they could be from iwi, as long as they have the skills base. They could potentially be appointed. I absolutely agree with both iwi being on the shareholder stakeholder count. Forum has a few names. As mana whenua, I think they are a stakeholder. Whether they have $1 in our assets, I think they're a key stakeholder for us as a council. So that's my view on that. So I think with that, we do have the numbers around the table to move on from that question. So, Joel, would you like to make comment on that question?
Board or not. Just taking a lot of the comments and a lot of the conversations to start it off. Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense to have the two iwi working side by side with this entity. I do note that yep, there's discussions around them being unelected from the council. I think we've had this conversation before when we spoke about the Māori ward for this particular council, and no offence to anyone in this room, none intended anyway. So please don't take any of this way. But I like sometimes it's just because it's an elected, it's a democratic process doesn't mean you actually represent all of your community. I think once we're able to accept that, then we're able to move on from that discussion and say, well, how can we best make sure that we do have elected members to represent the community? I also take mind that I've been in a city that's had commissioners, and while there was a lot of opposing to having commissioners as opposed to elected members, changes in the city that needed to happen actually happened and were rolled out. Now, some might say that there was too much change, but things that had been left dormant for 30 years were actually rolled through and from the commissioners that were put in place. Now, it's never going to be perfect. Whether you have elected members, whether you have commissioners, whether you have iwi on the board. I would say, well, what's the best thing moving forward for Wairarapa, Tamaki Nuarua, and water for everybody? Elected members come and go, but the iwi will always be there. Whether this entity foresees all of our lifetimes or the lifetime, of our children and grandchildren, iwi will always be there. So it's the smart play to do. I just go back to just our relationship with Kāretanga District Council with the wastewater treatment plant. Now, there was a whole lot of things that could have gone a lot worse than what they did. But we made a decision to go down, for want of a better word, a positive and strength-based pathway with CDC, with the previous councils, and we're here where we are because we chose not to take it through courts because we were not involved in the RMA process, both as tangata whenua and as landowners. So we chose as hapu, as tangata whenua, the right thing to do for the council and for the community, not just Māori, not just my people, but for all of us, was to go down a positive path, which has led us to where we are now. So I think by having iwi on board from the start is, like I said, it's not only is it the right way, right path, it's the smart play. It's a smart play for everybody and all four councils. And by all means, if, like I said, not everybody's going to agree with things, and that's okay. But if you sit back and you think, okay, what's the best thing as an elected member, as a leader in this community, what's the best path forward long term for the people that I purport to represent? Look, I know it can be difficult, and it can be a change in mindset or different mindset, but I guess that's why you put your hands up to be on councils. But you're one council of four, and they're one iwi of two, and iwi go through robust. I would say even more so robust meetings than what any council do. Taking nothing away from council, but when you represent your families and families that are across the other side and different iwi, then it is extremely difficult in those spaces too. Am I comfortable with iwi having management or governance over assets that I believe that sit in the grounds of my hapu, Ngāti Kahukurawhitia? Not particularly, because those are ours, not theirs. But I guess, like I've just said to you guys, what's the best thing for our wider area moving forward is to not to cut off my nose to spite my face, and to put the collective before myself. And I'm confident that with CDC that we'll continue our relationship with those wastewater treatment plant and the kaipātangata in other ways outside of the sport entity. So just comments from me, and appreciate you asking the question. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Joel. Appreciate your views. Further questions around the table? That's Newman.
I just want to ask a follow-up to Steve Gallen's point about, is a stakeholder shareholder council and do iwi need to have bought our share at $1? Like, is there a legality thing around that?
A great question. And again, a number of rather bruised and bodies that we had this conversation around. The proposed shareholding looks like Masterton has quite a large stake and Gutterton has the smallest. And when we looked at the voting requirements, so the thresholds for voting, simple majority at 51%, a super majority at 75%, or a unanimous decision. A lot of the supermajority decisions required Masterton to participate. Their concern was that the three other smaller councils would join forces with a simple majority and overrule Masterton. So they were quite concerned about moving from a shareholding percentage vote to one vote, one organisation. And that had quite a lot of conversation and back and forth to finally get the councils to agree that the stakeholder council is one vote, one organisation. So if there are 6 representatives on there, there will be 6 votes. And one party, the appointee from Masterton, won't say, my vote holds more sway than anyone else's. So that was quite a difficult conversation, but I think where we landed with it was a really good space because it meant we avoided a conversation where iwi did not have a share, therefore to vote. All of the organisations that were appointed to the stakeholder council had one vote.
Okay, so they don't need to legally own anything.
Correct.
And so then it turns to custard and they come back to us asking for money to prop this thing up. They also can go to the iwi?
No, the reserved matters are the things that only councils can decide, and they would be things like issuing new shares, providing guarantees to the entity because essentially we're moving a council asset into a council-controlled organisation, and the guarantees would only be those things called reserved matters that only shareholders can decide, and I've tried to outline them. Some of them are included in the Companies Act. Some of them we think will need to just be part of the shareholders. So, for example, I anticipate over a decade that it's likely this entity will change, and it's likely it'll merge with another water services entity, either north or south or west of this one. And that would be a decision for the councillors, for 4 councils to decide whether or not they wish to merge with another water entity. So that wouldn't be a shareholder, stakeholder council decision. That would actually be a reserved matter and go back to the 4 participating councils and say, do you want to do this?
Okay. And then just for clarity, that group, we're calling it a stakeholder.
Yes, I'd prefer to call it the stakeholder council.
Yep. And then, yep, that makes sense. Cool. Thank you.
Plus, Chief, I want to mention about the fact Masterton pushing for their higher shareholding of 41% means if they do come back to us asking for more money, Masterton has to provide 41% of it.
Yeah.
Yes. So
They wouldn't be keen.
that's exactly how we ended up back in the one vote, one organisation, because that's right. When the cards all do fall over and someone's got to back this thing, then it does fall back to shareholding, and suddenly Masterton were less keen to be the lender of last resort.
Councillor Ayling.
Sort of a follow-on question from Councillor Gallen with regards to skin in the game sort of thing. I'm just looking at the risk section, page 14, where it's talking about the establishment's costs. And that the high level estimate is 5 million, but it might not be totally accurate. And that it's shared against all the councils, and that it might be insufficient to establish the entity appropriately. We've had so many meetings in the last couple of years about how, our local iwis and our post-settlement iwis, they've got pots of cash. If they're having stakeholder status, why are they not contributing costs to the setup of this entity?
Because they're council assets that are transferring, council liabilities that are transferring, probably. More importantly, it's the liability that's transferring rather than the asset. And as a result, the councils are having to pay to set that up, to transfer their own liabilities and future capital investment plans into another entity that's going to look after it.
But then in that case, it's a shareholder organisation, not stakeholder. I just think we're towing a line here because the words matter, and I agree they do matter. If it's the shareholder, the iwi don't have a place there. If it's stakeholder, maybe they do. But if shareholders buy into something, then iwi need to be contributing. They're a post-settlement iwi. They talk about how they've got money, they want to invest. This is a key thing that we're doing for the Wairarapa. I don't understand why that's not been a conversation.
So I don't believe the legislation allows any other entity to be a shareholder other than a council, a territorial authority. I don't believe the legislation provides for iwi to be a shareholder in a Water Services Council owned organisation.
Which is why it's not a shareholder. You see my point.
That's why we're calling it stakeholder.
Okay, but this document says shareholder all through it.
Yeah, we do need to be way clearer. The language.
Just a question. Yeah, just a question on that. If the iwi are putting in money, let's say if they put in money, I guess a bit like pukaha, keeping pukaha alive.
Yeah.
I think it's the best possible example.
Then do the iwi also get profits or money that comes in through
I would argue
water rates
absolutely.
and everything?
If they're buying in, then they have rights for the district. That's only fair. The way it is now, there's all benefit and no risk to iwi. And I just think if it's all in, it should be all in.
I mean, if they're not getting, because the water rates and all that obviously come to the local councils and I guess and then they'll be channeled to this entity. Is there a suggestion that iwi should be getting rates as part of this entity? Is that what you're asking? Or I mean, is that part of it? If they're all in, then it's all in like everybody else. Is that?
My understanding is we aren't collecting the water. This is all going to be a solo little silo.
That's what I mean. So what I'm asking is, if there's any money that should be coming, that could potentially come from this entity through the councils or investment into infrastructure and stuff like that, are you suggesting that a portion of that should go to iwi? Because they're part of shareholders.
But council have agreed that we won't take dividends from this organisation, so it would be just staying in the organisation. But if in time there was a model where we did take dividends, then yes, iwi should be allowed to take it at that point. But we've agreed to a no dividend model. At the moment we're doing a half shareholder thing, a half stakeholder thing, and there's skin in the game for the councils, but not for iwi. And I just don't see how this is the smartest way to do things.
What number would that be? Because also different councils are coming in with different liabilities, as opposed to just 25% each, or you know what I mean. So where does that stop, and where does it start and stop? If we've acknowledged that all four councils are coming in with different liabilities, different assets, which is different in itself, and then obviously iwi are sitting different on their own space. Then it's not fair to start with, because it's not evenly shared across the four separate councils.
But with it, sorry, now we're just talking about each other. Yeah.
The intent was less about the physical shareholdings, which, as we found with Masterton, got confused and also has the potential to still get confused with Tararua with 27%, which is, if you were trying to get a 75% majority, an organisation with 27% holds a blocking stake. So we did find that conversations around shareholdings and weightings and all of that kind of stuff were quite troublesome. The intent of the shareholder/stakeholder council is to give 6 organisations a voice and a vote. And those 6 organisations were the 4 councils and 2 iwi organisations. Regardless of how we got there or what shareholding we had, the intent was we believe those 6 organisations need to have a voice in the future direction of the water services entity. And that's what we were trying to do.
Yeah, I think to some extent, it's not exactly a distinction without a difference, but in terms of anything that might come out of this organisation, its overriding objective is going to keep the water prices as low as possible. There's never any discussion about return on assets. We're not getting one now.
Right.
Unless you count having to put millions of dollars a year in. So I don't think it's an argument worth having.
As we have been told, though, that in 5-10 years, the entity may look at purchasing a business. It just alluded to the fact that there could be a business that sidelines to the water services entity, and that business could provide dividends back, but it would have to be a change through the voting to change, and it's unanimous? Is it unanimous?
So the plan around dividends is that the ban on dividends would mirror the ban on price harmonisation. So if that's 9 years, then you would have a ban on dividends for 9 years. So all of that money would be reinvested in either better capital works or repaying debt or keeping prices down low.
And to change that is a unanimous
Yes.
vote. So, Councillor Dowell.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit more about iwi involvement and whilst I think we need to forget about the shareholder word and talk more stakeholder as we have, it's more inclusive. But going back to the 2016 when we applied for a consent to for our wastewater discharge, etc., across putting an emergency discharge into the Mangatarere across iwi land, and to get that through without having to go to court or anything with iwi was a hell of an achievement. And a lot of that was to do with the progressive council we had at the times, and also the really good engagement we started right at the start with iwi. And it just made the process a hell of a lot easier, as Joel's already alluded to. So we have a history of working well with iwi when we involve them right at the start. And this is where I believe we should be calling it a stakeholder group rather than shareholder. As you know, the iwi are the guardians of the water right through the Wairarapa, and that goes right down to their Wairarapa Moana. And it's all about the water quality, the health and the environment around it. So we've got to take that into account, and to me that's their contribution to the stakeholder group. It's all about getting consents through easy and working with them to get the best possible outcome. So yeah, I'm quite in favour of the stakeholder group with 6 organisations.
Thanks, Councillor Della. I think just to add to that, I think Joel would quite rightly say that council went down the wrong path initially with, but the relationship we have with Ngāti Kaukura now and with Piranui is far better, and it's improving all the time. And I think that relationship will feed into us as a council moving forward and into iwi with those decisions and the stakeholder. forum. So Councillor Cherry
I
Campbell.
have a question which everyone might be quite happy that actually doesn't involve iwi. On page 13, it's the third to last paragraph of point 7.3 regarding the establishment costs imposed over the next 2 years and the recommendation that our share is funded from borrowing and then that debt is transferred. I just want clarification that that is actually allowed to happen, that the debt can be transferred from that because it's not a physical asset in itself.
Short story, yes.
Yay.
Long story, that's exactly what was proposed to happen with the Better Off funding from previous Three Waters reform. It was roughly $500 million worth of funding across the country that would have been capitalised and lodged as debt against the water entities. So there is no change between.
So there's no risk whatsoever on that. Thank you. I just wanted that clarified and out in the public as well.
But that also means the other councils are all doing that. So it's just another $5 million of debt we're putting on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really a
So, well, 5 million in total.
yeah, that's right.
5 million.
Like another 5 million I know, but it's still,
It is.
It is.
no one's really winning on
I
that.
was just making sure that we weren't going to be, that we weren't able to transfer that debt to the new entity and then that our ratepayers would be paying that off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which they still will be.
They still do, yeah.
But not part as, you know what I mean? Not part of our business as usual. Yeah.
There is a cost to set up a new organisation. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a cost left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, stranded overheads.
Councillor Rowley.
Yeah, I just want to sort of poke that bear a little bit. There's a big number here of the stranded overheads. It's got 6 digits in it. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your plan for eliminating or minimising organisational change, cost recovery, recovering against council activities, transportation, community services. Like that's a big number that we need to be figuring out how to take off our books.
It is a very big number and it'll only get bigger when you look at larger councils. And we are all facing the same challenge. So we are going to have to go through some pretty hard conversations about how we cut our cloth to fit the smaller budget that we will have. I don't expect that to be an easy conversation, but it will involve levels of service because if we aren't able to support $964,000 worth of overhead through Waters, then we're going to have to cut back. So the plan will start with transferring the water services entity over, and then we'll have a critical review of how we can cut without cutting levels of service first, and then we will have to have a conversation about cutting levels of service. I think as part of the first step, we will look at what we can do with our other councils. We've found shared services quite hard and they haven't necessarily delivered gains.
Yeah.
They may have delivered improved levels of service for the community. They may not have delivered financial gains. So I think we're going to have to really look hard at what will deliver financial gains. And I have some thoughts. I don't really want to share them at this stage, but it's high on my list of things to do.
I think we're seeing that across all 4 councils. So inclusive of Tararua, they're looking at exactly the same thing. And this is where more and more conversations around amalgamation. Because
if we lose 40% of our business, which is what will happen with Waters, and every council loses 40% of their business, I really have to ask myself, do you still need 3 CEOs across 50 kilometres worth of Wairarapa? So let's start there.
more questions. Councillor Gallen, you had a page full. Do you have any further questions? Or shouldn't I bug the bear?
Not talking.
I think, like Councillor Newman brought up about the stuff turning to custard and all the debt and all that, which is, I think she'd seen my paper, I think. A lot of the people have talked on things here. I think they've must have looked at my bits of paper, and the questions have been answered, sort of, although I've still got that many questions. I'm even more doubtful on a lot of things. Sorry, that's helpful or not.
May I answer some of the risks, Councillor Gallen, just around the debt? I anticipate that the capital plans will be joined for the 4 councils together. There will be, as we've often well signalled, there's a higher debt limit of up to 500% debt to revenue. So that'll give more headroom for the councils to complete their capital works. But what I do anticipate happening is that those capital plans will be critically reviewed by an entity that is just looking at water infrastructure. And I anticipate that the urgency of some of those things may be mitigated, and the capital estimates we've found previously when they are set out for tender and procurement often come in below what we had anticipated because we're expecting worst case scenario. In addition, Taumata Arawai are building national standards for water treatment and wastewater discharge, and those national standards will limit the amount of cost that is incurred in terms of obtaining resource consents, which again will keep a lid on our capital investment plans. So I do expect that whilst there is some risk with the capital plans at the moment, that there's probably more downside potential than there is upside risk. And so I don't see there a great need for the water services entity to come back and lean on the council for additional borrowing, for additional debt, or for a capital call. I do anticipate that if this thing is breathe life, we breathe life into it, and we transfer our asset and our liabilities and our staff and our operations, that it becomes an operate from here on in, and that it doesn't become a continued millstone around council's neck, that we can let it go, and that it does have its own life, and it doesn't need to come back to its parent for a top up every now and then.
Just a question semi-related to that. One of the other differences, I think, with the water services entity will be to have a different way of calculating and collecting depreciation. I just wonder, perhaps for the benefit of the public and also for me, if you can explain again what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So council has those assets depreciate over time. That's a cost that is incurred annually and is charged against rates. That model won't be used under the water services entity. So that's a council model as to how we calculate depreciation and recharge our assets. Under the water services entity, it will be, so essentially the depreciation model pre-funds capital work. So we have a depreciation charge that's charged through rates. We collect cash. We use that cash to fund our capital program. So we pre-fund our capital program via depreciation. The model that the water services entity will use is a post-funding model, where they will incur capital. If they don't have sufficient revenue to cover that capital cost and cash, they will borrow. So it's a debt-funded model as opposed to a depreciation-funded model. The depreciation is pre-funded. The debt model is post-investment. So those two models are quite different, and they will mean that we have a different calculation of tariffs and rates. But the trajectory will remain the same as what we've got in our long-term plans, but it is a different way of working for the water services organisation.
It's more what I would normally expect and what I grew up with, rather than how councils have to function.
It's a utility funding model. It's how power companies operate. So it's designed as a utility.
Which one of those models over a couple of generations works out cheaper?
Theoretically, they should both be the same. Theoretically. Yes, the difference will be, I think, that we've got a 3-year cycle for councils that refreshes quite regularly, whereas when you are looking at a water services entity board, you've got a board that is looking far longer term in terms of their capital investment plan. So take that how you might.
A non-answer.
Well, I think I don't believe we're going to get significant financial benefits. I think the benefits will occur outside of financial. So we will get long-term planning. We will get infrastructure investment that is tied to asset age. I think we will get consistency with our installed infrastructure. So where we have a pump failure here, we'll have a backup somewhere else because we're using the same equipment, we're using the same pipes, we're getting more efficiencies in the way we operate and the levels of service across the 4 districts. So I think there's a lot of benefits, but are we expecting those benefits to show up in price? Probably not immediately.
Jeff, further questions, discussion?
One more question. With regards to the when the organisation's up and running and there's a list of to-dos from all the councils, will the iwi put forward a list of to-dos? Like how will their members work into the work plan and how does that sort of play out?
The main document that will drive the outcomes for the water entity will be a statement of expectations. And that statement of expectations will obviously have specific areas for each council. So we'll be interested in Taranaki, whereas we might not be interested in Castle Point. So each council will have their area of interest, and iwi will have interest across all of the 4 council areas. But it's that statement of expectations that will drive the behaviour of the board and the outcomes that we expect the board of the water entity to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us will participate in that as part of the stakeholder council.
It's a big decision. Any more discussion? I know for me, I appreciate the time that's gone into this, and we've all put a lot of time into this, and the members of the AOG working to this point. We've done a great job, and the CEs and the fight, Jeff fighting for us and Ron fighting for us and Brian fighting for us for our ratepayers. It's when you read through the terms, I think our community will be pleased at what we are looking at moving forward with. And we do need to look at the bigger picture.
I think also in the percentages supporting from our community when we consulted, 70% is a vast majority in support of us joining as well. So that does give me confidence.
That's human.
Just a quick question for those picked up in the recommendations. That unbudgeted expenditure to get it up and running, we should be able to pass that to the waters entity. But if something changes and we decide we're out, then that unbudgeted expenditure of 1.25 million will stay
with us. Yes. So there is some funding that has come from the Crown. So they've given each council $50,000. So that's $250,000 for all 4 of us, and that is currently funding our project team. We don't anticipate we're going to need $1.25 million on day one. So there will be, it will grow over time and we will draw down over time. So if, for example, we decide to pull out in August, we won't have spent $1.25 million. We would only spent a little bit more between now and August. If you decide to pull out, then
You didn't look very happy at that prospect.
the risk for staff is being able to have sufficient time to develop a water service delivery plan before the 3rd of September, whichever way you decide. And that time is running out on us. So I guess my request is for a clear steer on what you would like us to do. Because changing that decision in August really doesn't leave us a lot of time in order to have Plan B, unless we're developing Plan B.
But what we're doing today is fundamentally make a decision, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
But there's still exit routes if we want to take them.
Not really, but
I wouldn't, well,
What happens if someone pulls out and we decide this is no longer a viable option for us to be involved in?
Masterman voting today as well, aren't they?
yes.
But I think, did they still have an exit point?
We still formally have to adopt the water services delivery plan. So the joint plan has to come to council. So we haven't finished it yet, and that will come to council and on the 13th of August. We still have to adopt it at that point. If council decides at that point you don't wish to participate in that, then we have to have a Plan B ready to go in less than 2 weeks, because the 13th of August to the 3rd of September is the only timeline we have left.
But you are at the moment working on a plan B.
Yes.
but you have a recommendation.
Just to stop that.
Are you suggesting perhaps we don't proceed with that recommendation?
Well, that's council's decision. If you think that may be an option, then I would recommend we carry on with the Plan B, because I don't want to have to drop everything and deliver it in 2 weeks.
But if today we decide we want to proceed, and then Councillor Newman's point, if something significant changes external to us and we say, well, that means we can't proceed, we're stuck unless we go along with working on Plan B, even if we have every expectation to not need it. So I think
We could apply.
you're going to have to give us a clean steer in that. I know you don't like telling us what to do, but it would be a good day.
I have the utmost faith in our neighbours to make a decision today as well.
Do you have enough faith though to risk the impact that could be on our ratepayers if they did happen to pull out? Because that's the cost of that risk is quite high. If it does happen, small likelihood, but potentially.
I guess that's the risk you will weigh up, the recommendation and the voting.
Can I
It's a bit like
Can I indulge?
play, isn't it?
Johannes, and perhaps just ask for clarity on the amount of additional work in preparing 2 plans at this stage. Is that significant, or is preparing 2 plans from here going forward not a material addition of work?
Thank you, Jeff. I would say it's additional work. It's not, I wouldn't say it's material, as the standalone water service delivery plan considers existing processes, and capital investment and asset data is the same information that we feed into the combined plan. So it's additional plan or additional work, but I wouldn't say it's extraordinary.
So does that mean it's manageable? Personally, I'm really concerned about the time and resources that you and your team and Jeff have available, or not really available. Is it manageable to cause sleepless nights and long hours and even more stress continuing with a Plan B bubbling in the background?
Is that a real question?
Probably already sleepless nights.
We probably think that a lot of the work that is required for a joint plan will also be required for a standalone plan. There will obviously be additional work required just for the standalone plan, but it's not a duplication of effort. There is a lot of things that are required for both.
So you could extrapolate out stuff.
Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Over the last 2 or 3 days, I've been on the phone to councillors from South Wye and Marston. South Wye, the comments I got back from the two that I rang, they're all signed up, ready to go, and are quite happy. It's just they've got some concerns about the makeup of the stakeholder council, etc. But that'll come out, no problem. Marston, I've talked to 2 councillors, and they are quite sure that they've got the numbers to get it across the line today. Whether that happens or not, their meeting's about half an hour behind ours, I think, or an hour behind ours. But they are both very confident. And basically they're on the same page as us. I went through our page, our meeting agenda today with them both, and they look positive. So I cannot see any major hiccups at this stage. So, and my feeling is that as already been pointed out, the sooner the better we get this across the line. Because otherwise we're going to be dragging the chain and putting extra pressure on our staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dillon. Councillor Newman.
Just to clarify though, as confident as they are, they still have an exit option coming up. So this isn't a final decision for them.
No,
Which, as Jess alluded to, we do as well,
we all do.
whether we accept the water services plan or not.
So they've got 2.
No, that is their exit option.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
their exit. Okay,
The exit
okay.
option for all 4 councils is to adopt the water services delivery plan, which is in August for all 4 councils. So that's still an exit option for all 4.
Okay.
Councillor Allen, do you still have a?
Well, it was just about the idea of the backup option. It seems to me that it would be preferable for us to keep that going than us to go surprise in August if something changes that you've got. I know it's 8th, 9th of July, so it's an extra month, but otherwise in a month's time, we're like, oh no, everyone else has bailed on us. Can you guys start that thing up that we stopped a month ago? And that would need another, instruction to staff to keep going. And I just wonder if there could be, I agree. I think my confidence has been knocked over this training about how collaborative our fellow councillors and other.
Once we get to the recommendation, so it's whether it gets moved or not.
Yeah.
So
I'm just wondering, is there another recommendation that we could do that? It's like a halfway house that's not going full bore on the second plan, but it's like just keep it tinkling away.
Until we get,
Let's
let's
get
get
down,
to the recommendations.
Okay.
I know that the discussions, as it's already been alluded to, that have led right up to today, that have only, our neighbours have only really got a couple of these decisions across the line, and one of them was to do with the board makeup and so forth. So it's been a moving feast, and I think Gary has said that, or Mayor Caffel has said that they are in a good position now with the same as us, where we've been leading to. So I'm confident that we can move to those recommendations and make some good decisions around it. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
Councillor Newman.
When it comes to that very last decision, how does that work timing wise? Like, do we all have our meetings at exactly the same time, or like?
We have organised that the CEs are recommending to their councils that all 4 meetings occur on the 13th of August. All councils meet on the same day.
At the same, like, do you know what I mean? Because like say somebody makes the call to pull out at 10 a.m. that morning, it could affect.
Correct.
So it's just something.
It could be a game of chicken, where we anticipate by that stage that everything has been agreed and sorted, and it's we hope that it will be a formality.
It will be. If someone was going to pull out, they would have told us before then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be World War III in the Wairarapa, and no one really wants that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I,
guys have more faith than I do.
Well, Tararua and South Wairarapa are definitely all in.
Yeah, but we're not particularly worried about those ones as much.
No,
this is, we're on the telly.
I can't say that.
councillor Gallen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, going back to, yeah, as I say, Marston have done this U-turn on us before. And, you know, I'm just a bit concerned that they can just pull out and go alone and say, you three can carry on by yourself if you like. It's just that threat's there, and they seem to have that. They've done it before, left us high and dry.
I think this being one of the biggest decisions that Wairarapa has made, I think they're certainly, this is different than other decisions that they may have U-turned in the past.
Also,
way.
I've also had a lot more, I don't know if they call them workshops, or they have been giving a lot of, from my understanding of councillors I've spoken to north of us, is that they have been given lots of information. They've been asking questions the whole way through. They've been getting the answers, and
Very engaged. Look, with that, I'm happy to move through the recommendations if the those on the table are. And let's,
Just, I mean, this is really being nitpicky, but on the recommendations kind of refer to this table of main points. One of those main points still talks about iwi representation on the. You've got the cover. Okay, we have that show.
Hasn't been agreed. You are correct. The recommendations refer to the term sheet, which has a term that hasn't been agreed.
Yes. Okay, but you're going to deal with that. Excellent.
okay, let's move through them individually. So we'll move to the first recommendation that we've received the report. Councillor Cherry Campbell, we have a seconder. Councillor Newman, all in favour?
Right.
Councillor Gallen, can you just hold your hand up if you're, as we go through these, or? Thank you. Recommendation, sorry, against? And abstaining? No?
Carried.
Carried, thank you.
Yeah.
Recommendation B. So this is where there will be no, not this one. Recommendation B, endorses Carlton District Council participation in a joint Wairarapa Tararua Water Services Council controlled organisation. I'm happy to move that. Seconded Councillor Della, all in favour?
No.
Against? Was that your hand up, Councillor Gallen, for approving that? Are you abstaining?
Abstaining or against? Maybe you could put your microphone on.
Probably want to abstain on that. I've just got too many questions.
Okay. Do you want that? Obviously, that would be. Do you want that noted?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not convinced.
Okay. Well, that's carried. Recommendation C is where there's a slight change, and that is that we endorse the key terms have been negotiated with. Do we need to put a that in there?
That.
Endorses the key terms that have been negotiated with other councils as outlined in attachment 1, except Carlton District Council reaffirms no organisation should have appointment rights to the Water Services Organisation Board. Do you want me to?
Was that a double negative? Hang on. That we endorse, that we accept that there's not
So we-
lost.
So I'll read it out again. Endorse the key terms that have been negotiated with other councils as outlined in attachment 1, comma, except Carlton District Council reaffirms no organisation should have appointment rights to the Water Services Organisation Board, the Water Services Entity Board.
So that's accept, not accept, ACCEPT.
It's
So then it's
The opposite, we're accepting
Then it's-
it.
Except,
No, okay,
Excluding, maybe excluding?
Yeah.
because then is that a double negative?
That's where I was confused. Yeah. We agree with it, except for
Except
that
this
part.
one particular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy with that wording?
It was in English.
Okay. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Cherry Campbell. Councillor Lawrence, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Abstaining, anyone? So you were for that, councillor Gallant? I missed your hand up early enough.
I'll go with that, yeah.
That's carried, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, D. So my screen's disappeared. Approves unbudgeted expenditure of up to 1.25 million as Carden District Council's quarter share of transition and establishment costs. We have a mover and a seconder. I'm happy to move that. We have a seconder. Councillor Della, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried unanimous as well. And recommendation E, notes the unbudgeted expenditure will be capitalised, funded from borrowing and transferred to the WSCOO at Go Live with other council debt.
Do we need to clarify that will only happen if we do go into because there is a risk that may not be able to happen? Or is it fine?
so the trigger will be go live. So if it doesn't go live,
Then there won't be any debt.
then there won't be a transfer. Is that your question?
Yeah, as long as the wording is fine, because there is the choice option, it might not happen. Yeah, okay.
Councillor Della, Councillor Cherry Campbell, all in favour?
Right.
Against? Abstination, anyone abstaining? Carried. Recommendation F, delegates authority to the Chief Executive Officer to sign the relevant documents to establish the Wairarapa Tararua WSCOO, including, amongst other things, Companies Office, banking authorities and LGFA borrower documentation. I need to move that. Secondly, Councillor Newman, all in favour?
Okay.
Against? That's carried. And lastly, G, instructs the Chief Executive Officer to cease development of a standalone water services delivery plan as a backup option. Do we have a mover and a seconder? I'm happy to move that. Do we have a seconder? We don't? So,
Yeah,
Councillor Della? Can we have hands up for who's in favour? 3, against? 4. So that's voted against. Do you want to have, well, I guess it just carries on as is. So. Right. Very good. We have our final item, which is our closing karakia whakamutanga. Kia whakaarea te tātou, kia wāpea. Kia turiki whakatahae, kia turiki whakatahae. Haumie, haumie, taike. Kia ora, Joel. Thank you for your attendance and your participation. Thank you, Councillor Gallant.
Go to bed now.
Don't enjoy the day before it gets too hot.
Lead a meeting closed. Thanks, everyone.
I normally make